everybody. My name is Elizabeth Harlow, and I'm a senior here at Morehead State. And today I present to you Playing the Field, how participating in sports facilitates or constrains coming out for lesbian athletes. In America today, the gay rights and liberation movement is moving forward at a very rapid pace. Little research has been given in regard to the specific topic of homosexuality in sports. However, some research has been focused on the general topic of homosexuality. Media attention all across the country has shown a variety of different athletes in different sports who have come out as openly gay. I'm sure many of you know Michael Sam, University of Missouri's defensive lineman and NFL prospect, or maybe Jason Collins, the former NBA player who was the first openly gay active NBA player in the U.S. But most often, people probably won't recognize names like Brittany Griner, who is a WNBA rookie, or maybe Natasha Kai, who is a professional soccer player and a 2008 Olympic gold medalist, or maybe even Michelle Van Gorp, who is a former WNBA player and who was one of the only openly gay female athletes of her time, which was around 2004. Research. American sports depicts the epitome of heterosexism and homophobia. And like most aspects of one's life, people experience things differently, men and women particularly. Sports is no different. The rise in the representation of the gay male community in sports led me to question what role it might play specifically and uniquely in the lives of lesbian women. Specifically, my question is, how does participating in sports facilitate and or constrain coming out for lesbian athletes? I framed my research on several sociological concepts. First of all, the sports and attitudes of athletes often depict and kind of mirror the dominant ideology of a society. U.S. culture places quite an emphasis on femininity and masculinity, which are qualities associated with one's specific biological gender. Typically, these are measured by one's adherence to gender roles, which are behavioral expectations associated with one's biological sex. Men are expected to exhibit traits such as assertiveness, competitiveness, and physical strength, while women usually viewed as the opposite, nurturing, weaker, and more timid. In sports, women can combat femininity and these stereotypes in a socially acceptable way. Lots of female athletes, though, as a result, deal with the stereotype that female athletes are lesbians. Therefore, homosexuality may frequently be expected by society by female athletes. Homophobia and heterosexism also manifest in sports. Homophobia is the negative attitudes and feelings about homosexuals or even those just perceived to be gay. And heterosexism involves the celebration of opposite sex attraction and relationships. These determine essentially what the nature and the environment is for lesbian athletes. Since all the focus has been on males, we really don't know a lot about the experiences of these women. Several articles I used when developing my research project are as follows. Like I said, like the media and research has been focused on men. Pronger, for example, conducted open-ended interviews with 34 male athletes and analyzed the experience of being gay in one of America's most homophobic institutions. He excluded lesbians because he brought up the claim that women and men experience things differently. For example, society maintains the belief that female athletes are homosexual, so it's frequently expected. And this changes the environment and the atmosphere of what lesbians experience while participating in sports. Anderson further explores this idea and the role that homophobia plays in the experience of gay male athletes. And my research typically, or especially, focuses on lesbians as opposed to gay males, addressing the gender gap. Crane and Cower take an approach similar to mine from out on the ball field. They focus broadly on homosexual women who play sports. And like Pronger, they recognize the lesbian female athlete stereotype. And emphasize the importance in understanding the experiences of lesbian athletes. This kind of gives the context of the environment and the atmosphere, as well as an analysis to compare my results. The final two examine the attitudes of gay athlete peers, their coaches, their teammates, and just their friends and family. Harry did a study of 304 college students. He analyzed the association between hypermasculine male-dominated sports ideology and the attitudes about gay men and women. He found that sports ideology reinforces sexist attitudes and homophobic attitudes as well. And that showed a gender discrepancy. There was only males who believed that. So this just demonstrates that there's a more accepting environment for lesbian athletes than there may be for a gay man. And finally, Roper and Halloran explore the attitudes of heterosexual athletes about homosexuality. And like Harry, they found that females feel less negatively about homosexual men and women. And it also determines, more importantly, that more contact with gay individuals leads to less negative attitudes about homosexuality in general, as well as increased acceptance of gay individuals. I think it's important to consider the attitudes of coaches, teammates, and peers, because this greatly determines the environment for the lesbian athletes. And these attitudes also provide a foundation for the explanation of why their experiences are thought to be more positive or perhaps even less daunting than a gay man, despite the unique complexities of each. For my methodology, since this is such a sensitive, complex topic, I chose to do a qualitative approach and focus on the general themes instead of just numbers and statistics. I chose to focus on out lesbians, as in those who openly identify as gay, over the age of 18. And I aimed for about 15 to 20 participants in my interviews. That way I can draw on a variety of experiences. Also, because it's common to struggle with coming out the most when you're in your teenage years or your young adulthood life. I focus specifically on participants who have played or are currently playing high school or college sports. I'm using face-to-face interviews, both individual and in group, and the format of the questions is open-ended. That way I can leave the discussion open for any issues or experiences that I may not have previously considered when I designed this study. Some of the questions include, what age did you come out as a lesbian? What was the environment like? What sports did you participate in? Did you feel accepted by your teammates or your coaches? Did sports play a role in the decision to come out? And how did you manage stereotypes about female athletes in society? And I just wanted to include some of these examples just so you could get an idea for what I'll be asking and what I'm trying to figure out from these participants. Today I've completed 5 interviews, all of the women aged 20 to 29. 4 of the 5 came out between the ages of 16 and 19. Basketball and softball were prevalent in the first few interviews. 1 played basketball, 2 played basketball and softball, 1 track, 1 softball and volleyball. All of the participants so far have expressed acceptance by their teammates, one even claiming that she finally felt like she could be who she really was, but not as much by coaches, particularly by male coaches. Whether or not the decision to come out was facilitated by playing sports was iffy and mixed pretty evenly. 2 particularly said that it helped and facilitated their decision. 3 said that it played no role at all. Yet, to this day, I have not encountered anyone who said it constrains the coming out process, but because I only have 5 interviews completed, it's not a very representative sample. So I'll definitely have to get more interviews to truly find out whether or not it constrains or facilitates coming out. Men's and women's sports differ greatly in expectations of masculinity. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, men and women's sports differ greatly in expectations of masculinity and femininity. For women, sports allow them to combat stereotypical femininity in a socially acceptable way. This causes them to experience sports in a different manner in a variety of aspects. Research indicates that gay men tend to face more difficult circumstances and greater barriers in athletics than their lesbian counterparts. And for this reason, and based on my initial data, I could anticipate that finds that sports does facilitate coming out for lesbian athletes. In addition, and because gay community is more welcomed now in the U.S. than it was in the past, I expect that sports will demonstrate less influence and a less accepting environment for older lesbians as opposed to younger lesbians. I also expect that certain more masculine sports, like research indicated in softball, basketball, will demonstrate more accepting environments as well. And overall, the experiences will vary from person to person, and each will give a unique take on a topic that's so frequently overlooked, but also so important. Giving voice to those who are rendered invisible or forced to remain silent in society is very important. And if we don't give voices to these people, we'll never truly understand their experiences, and we won't ever really learn anything from them